Thom Hartmann here with you. And boy, we've got a lot to talk about today. And in each hour, actually, completely different topics that I want to get into. There's a lot going on this summer. And the level of perfidy, of destruction that the Trump administration over the last 6 months has unleashed on America is, really quite extraordinary. I mean, putting Ryan Zinke in charge of Interior, the guy who is the shill for the lobbying and for the mining and extractive industries lobbies and cattle and all that kind of stuff. Putting Scott Pruitt in charge of the EPA, the guy who has sued 17 times, I think, anyhow, a bunch of times to shut down, to block the EPA from doing its work. A guy who's a reliable tool of the Koch network and all the right-wing petro-billionaires and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot here. In fact, I sent a note to a friend of mine who's the editor of one of the, I didn't ask his permission to talk about this, so I'm not going to name him, but he's the editor of one of the more high-profile online news sites out there. Just saying, do you know if anybody has compiled a list of essentially the crimes against America of the Trump administration in its first 6 months? I mean, it would have been a great 6-month roundup, right? There's the Streams of America rule, right? Making it, doing away with a law or regulation that kept our water safe, pulling us out of the Paris Accords, changing the rules on air pollution, throwing trans people out of the military, bringing Chris Kobach into the White House to suppress the vote nationwide. The guy who arguably, won Trump the election by suppressing the votes of millions of people, or possibly as many as millions of people, just before the last election through interstate crosscheck. Most of the Republican states are using this thing, and they're throwing people off the voting rolls like there's no tomorrow and making it harder and harder and harder for young people, elderly people, and poor people to get on the voting roll. You don't have a passport, tough luck. And now they want to make this national. The fiduciary rule, which is absolutely under assault by this administration, the fiduciary rule, which said that if you are a financial advisor to somebody who is giving you their retirement funds, you actually have to tell them the truth about how much money you're making investing their funds and whether it's the best thing for them or not. I mean, he goes before a group of police officers and creates a terrible role model, and it basically empowers them to engage in police brutality. In fact, encourages them to engage in police brutality. This is the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, encouraging police brutality. That's the kind of thing you would have seen in Mussolini's Italy or Franco's Spain. That's not the kind of thing that we have ever, to the best of my knowledge, seen in the United States. I mean, we have to keep in mind how unusual this is, how not normal this is. So anyhow, I sent this note to a friend of mine who runs this website, and I said, has anybody put together a list of all these things? And he sent me back a note saying, I'm pretty sure not. In fact, if you did, you'd be the first. So, I want to start out with, what are Republicans complicit in? And perhaps you can help me add to the list. I'm going to actually make notes if anybody calls with a good suggestion for our list, and then we're going to go through and source everything and probably publish it as a piece on one of these websites. But, there's deciding foreign policy by tweet without experts weighing in. If you have thoughts about what are the things that the Trump administration has done so far that most upset you, or that you think are most destructive to American democracy, give us a call at 202-808-9925. And let me know what that might be. He's made the United States the laughingstock of the world by running a reality show presidency. His tweets, are freaking out everybody. 16 Ways to Sunday. He goes before the Boy Scouts of America. a group that is rigorously nonpartisan. And presidents for 80 years now have been going before the Boy Scouts and speaking to them. And they never discuss politics. And Trump goes, talks to the Boy Scouts and trashes the Democrats and raises Republicans. It's wrong. I mean, it's just fundamentally wrong. He's trying to sell sell off our public lands. Now, this is a twofer for him. On the one hand, he gets to undo another piece of that black guy who was in the White House, undo a piece of his legacy. And on the other hand, he gets to, by selling off public lands, make a few billionaires even richer, and they'll kick some of that money back to his campaign or one of his super PACs or the Republican Party or whatever. He's told us that he's going to end the war on Christmas. He told the Boy Scouts that in July you can now say Merry Christmas in America because Donald Trump is president. I mean, I really wish you call it the Fox News presidency. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it is so bizarre. It's like this guy watches Fox News all day long, and Fox News, as we all know, is the largest purveyor of misinformation and lies out there in the television media landscape. He's put the U.S. at the edge of war with 3 different countries, China, Russia, and the the People's Republic of Korea. I believe that's what it's called, PRK, isn't it? North Korea. And God only knows, how close we are, or actually we are in the middle of wars in the Middle East. We're in the middle of a war in Syria. We're supporting the Saudis in a brutal war in Yemen that has produced so far 600,000 innocent civilians, mostly women and children, who have cholera and dying of famine right now as we speak. And we're supporting and subsidizing that. He's attacked Qatar. Saudi Arabia is running ads right now in Washington, D.C., trashing Qatar and quoting Trump. A foreign country lobbying us through advertising. I'll tell you, it's pretty remarkable. He's trying to undo the national parks. He wants to privatize our schools. Betsy DeVos is on this campaign. By the way, a great op-ed apropos of that in today's New York Times, talking about what government school, when people talk about government schools, Betsy DeVos loves to talk about government schools. Where'd that come from? It came out of the South. Government schools was a phrase that was used by people in the South to describe public education where their white kids might have to show up and be in a classroom with a black kid. This is a phrase that became very popular after the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision. Virginia, a Prince Edward or George's, Prince something or other, county just down the road here in Virginia, for 5 years closed their public schools. No more government schools here. And Trump has brought that one back. He's torturing Obamacare. It seems to me that he's trying to. I'm not sure what he's trying to do, because he campaigned on, I'm going to make sure that everybody has health insurance. It's going to be better health insurance than you have right now, and it'll be cheaper than you have right now. Well, you can actually do that as president of the United States. However, the way you have to do it is some variation on the way the rest of the world has done it, either single payer like most of Europe and Central and South America have, or through a national health service, which would be sort of like the Veterans Administration, which is what Britain has. Or you can do it with an entirely private system, as Switzerland has done, but you simply require all elements of the system to be nonprofit, and you require every citizen to have health insurance. Now, it's a little easier to do it that way for Switzerland because they're the richest country in Europe. There's just not much poverty in Switzerland. So, but this is the beginning of my list. So if you've got things you'd like to add to it, I'd love to hear from you. Donald Trump, again, this morning tweeted, if Obamacare is hurting people, and it is, why shouldn't it hurt the insurance companies, and why should Congress not be paying what the public pays? Sounds to me like Donald Trump just made an argument for single-payer health care, right? Why should it be hurting the insurance companies? How about why do we even need insurance companies? We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So help me come up with this list of the crimes, insults, and outrages of the first 6 months of the Trump administration.